Uno, dos, tres huevos. I don't know if we're going live here or not. It's always the challenge here. Let me see what's going on. See if we're showing up. All right, let me see. I know it's fun to watch somebody try to figure this out here. Dun, dun, dun. Where are we at? It says I be live. Does not look like I'm live. Uh-oh. Looks now like we're live. There we go. Let's see here. Uno, dos, tres. Can you guys hear me? Unos, dos, tres. Huevos. I'm doing my best here on this. Let's see what we got going on. Oh, look at that. I'm looking at myself now. Awesome. So I can tell you guys are here. That is super great. This will help me out. Glad to see you guys. Tap codes activated. Yes, tap, tap, tap. Welcome all my potential tappers here. This is great. Thank you for so many likes and comments and everything and the support rolling into this. Hope to make this amazing for you. You guys probably know, if you've seen any of my videos and stuff, probably why I do more writing than videos. I'm kind of like Columbo on X-Lax, my smoothness. That's right. I'm a little bit bumbly and I get lost sometimes, but seeing all you guys here sure makes it a lot better. So let's get this show on the road. Let's start out with some questions here, some poignant questions here. How many of you guys sell on the phone? How many of you guys pick up the phone? Maybe that's not the only thing that you do, but how many of you guys pick up the phone and use the phone to make sales there? If you guys would just put it down there, it would be super, super helpful for me. I'm gonna be trying to watch these. I get my self-esteem really takes a hit if you don't like roll with me here. It just gets battered. Like I can't take it, right? So if you can, just let me know how many of you guys use the phone here. Just put phone in the comments so I can kind of keep track of this. I'm not very good at doing two things at once. Awesome. How many of you guys use webinars? How many of you guys use webinars to ring in sales? Just put Webby or W in there, right? So I see phones, webinars. Awesome. Kevin, thank you. Michael, awesome phone. So lots of phone. And this may shock you, but I have nothing against the phone, right? It's a tool that you want to use at the right time. It's a tool in your toolbox that you want to use at the right time. I also have nothing against webinars. Webinars are a perfectly fantastic tool to use at the right time. However, I think, in my experience, we're trying to use a tool to do some things that maybe it shouldn't do, right? When I was a kid, I had a bike, and about the only tools that I had was like a pair of pliers and some chan locks, right? And if any of you guys, any you boys or girls have tried to tighten and loosen nuts with a pair of pliers, right? It does work. It does work. You can make it happen, but there's only so many times that you can take off the nut, right? Before what happens, it rounds out, right? And it's a lot of work and a lot of challenge. So let me ask you this, and this is something really, really important, is, and I'm gonna stop looking at myself over here because I'm got a lag. How many of you have bigger ticket stuff, say like in the 5K, 10K, 20K, or even anything bigger ticket stuff that you would sell more of if you didn't feel like you had to like block out days or weeks on the phone in your schedule and sell stuff by phone? I see this a lot with the clients that I work with. They have masterminds or they have 10K programs, right? But they have to put together like, this whole big webinar, or they have to, they have to block out a bunch of time to set up calls to get on the phone. And so usually they don't want to take a very aggressive stance on that. And who would, why would you want to have a calendar blacked out with phone calls and being on the phone all the time? What's the other challenge with it? Like if you have enough leads coming in, right? If you have enough leads coming in where you could actually be on the phone all the time, that wears you out. So the next thing you're like, well, maybe I should hire some salespeople, right? I've hired salespeople, I've had salespeople, and that's not the dream that it's made out to be. What's some problems with salespeople? Give me something in the box there. Anybody's hired or tried to hire salespeople before? What's some challenge with some salespeople, right? You got to supervise them. They get 10, 15, 20% commission. That might be just perfectly fine if they're great salespeople, right? But you also got to worry about what are they telling the other people, right? What are they telling people? Are they working in your best interest, right? And all those kind of, Edward, they're expensive, right? Or they can be expensive, right? So what I see, and I think this is a huge solution for people, if we can tap in sales, tappers, right, without having to get on the phone all the time. And again, I'm not against the phone. There's times that you want to get on the phone, but even if you do get out for a sales question, once you get on there, like I call it like a 6-minute strategy session, whether you're just answering 1 or 2 questions, they're way closer to the whole, which we're going to talk about, right? But what I see is, let me just ask you this: like, if you could sell 2K, 5K, 10K, 20K, 25K things, and you weren't have to put together a webinar to do it, or you didn't have to get on the phone, how many of you guys would put more programs like that together, or put a program like that together and sell some of it, right? It doesn't take long to get to 100K in a month if you got a 10K offer, right? Or a 25K offer. Anybody that would sell more if they had something that was a little bit more streamlined and efficient? Thanks a lot, and praise God. Yes, and I've been there, right? And the other challenge is like if you are doing a lot of strategy sessions and doing a lot of webinars, like is advertising on Facebook or anywhere you're getting it, are the ads going up in price? Hell yeah, they're like going up like crazy. And are they going to come down anytime soon? Maybe, but probably not, right? So what else we also have is I'm seeing a lot of people that just have to drive massive amounts of traffic, right? Thousands of visitors in order to try to hit their income goals, when you have a more efficient process, when you can close 40-50% through a T3 process if you're selective, which we're going to talk about. And you can do it with a tapper that you pay $20 an hour, maybe some bonus, a $50 bonus for every sale. Then it becomes pretty nice, right? And you just don't need to do a whole lot of driving visitors. Does that make sense to everybody? Cool. So I'm going to do some weird, I'm going to do this in reverse, right? We're all members of the $1 Million Offer Mojo group here, and I thought one of the best things, the reason I'm doing a lot of this here is like, how can I enlighten you and give you insight and help learn you on offers, but actually making an offer, right, to everybody in the group, and how we put this thing together. So I'm going to kind of do this as a reverse little discussion here, or a reverse thing, and I'm going to go ahead and let you know that there's going to be an offer today. You probably already figured that out. I'm opening up 12 spots in the phoneless sales machine, and tapping the T3 is part of that, right? So what I'm going to do is I'll make this whole damn thing an offer, but I'm going to do it in a way, I think, where you're going to get major insight and knowledge. Whether you decide to become a full-fledged tapper and join the phoneless sales machine, is going to be wonderfully, wonderfully valuable for you, and the insights hopefully that I give you. So what most people try to do is hold off the price until the end, right? I'm going to do a little bit of that, but here's what I want you to know. Next week, we're going to open up for official enrollment for the phoneless sales machine. If we have any spots open for the official enrollment, the investment's going to start at $10K. I am going to make you a much, much better deal than that at the end of this. And even at the 10K, most of my clients and most of my students make that back, like in an email or two, right? Or in a sale or two. Or some of you guys, I just did a poll, some of you guys are doing $10,000, $15,000, $25,000 offers. So you make that back in one sale, right? But you guys are going to get a much, much better deal than that. So let me get a little sip of water. Just give me a check-in here. Is everybody, are we cool if I kind of make this whole thing an offer, but kind of learn you as we go along? I have the hardest time reading these chats. I never know if you guys are like, oh no, or if I'm just not reading it right. Let's see. Oh, cool. Thank you, Oliver. Oliver saved. Okay, I'm in sync now. Cool. Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Seth. Thanks, Wesley. Perfect. I've got my laptop here. If you guys couldn't tell, right? I have to have the big screen. Now that I'm 50, I have to have the big screen. I can't just do this little screen thing, right? So, let me give you guys some overview context first. This, about 4 years ago, I really started getting this, and it changed my whole outlook and made my business a lot easier and making it a lot, like, exponentially. And I know everybody says, oh, 2 times, 3 times, I'm making exponentially more money now that I had this insight, and it's very nuanced, right? But I want to give you guys a big overview of this. And some of this, if you've been following me for a while, you've probably heard, but I would like you to really focus in on this. And if you can take nothing away from our time today, I think this will be worth it. But here's the thing. Any golfers here in the group here? And it's funny because I use the golfing analogy a lot, but I'm not a golfer, right? There's a country club down the way, but I'm not a golfer. But I'm not going to go so deep into it that if you don't golf, you won't understand it. But basics of golf, right? You have a hole where the golf ball's supposed to go, right? Yes, Wesley Bossler lives in the same town that I do. But you have a hole where the golf ball is supposed to go to. And out from that hole, you have a green, right? Once you get on the green, typically you're in putting distance, right? And then you back it up from that hole and you have a drive, right? So you have different distances between the hole and the drive. The farther you are, typically, the harder the darn thing is to get into that hole, right? And this is so much like marketing and sales, right? Marketing is the drive from where you tee off, right, until you get it onto the green, right, and you get it into putting, in the putting range, right, and then you put the ball in once it's on the green, and that's the sales side. Now, this is not just some redneck Southern boy talking about this. A very, very smart gentleman named Peter Drucker said, the goal of marketing is to make sales superfluous, and so you don't have to pull out your dictionary. I did when I first read it. It means to make it non-necessary, right? He also said that the only 2 things that make money in a business are marketing and innovation. Sale, everything else is an expense, right? But the reason this had such a huge impact on my business is because marketing is leverageable and sales is not. How do you leverage a sales conversation? You You can't, right? It's really, really hard. I'm not saying you can never do it. Maybe you could record the sales conversation. Maybe you'll get something out of the sales conversation that you can feed back in, but it's probably going to go to your marketing, right? So now we're talking about marketing and sales, and you're probably like, oh, who gives a hoot, right? Well, here's the thing. Here's what, like, many marketers that are struggling doing, right? If they don't get on the phone, or if they're doing if they don't get on webinars, they don't shoot long drives, right? This is why the tripwire is so popular, right? The $7 offers or the $97 offers, because the bigger the ticket item is, the farther you are away from the hole. So their only thing that they can do is start off close to the hole, right? And so that's a lot of shooting. Now, if you're backing up farther, let's say you have a $1,000 offer or a $5,000 offer, right? Maybe that's a 500-yard drive. The reason people think that they must have a salesperson or a webinar is because what they're attempting to do is make a hole-in-one, right? They try to hit the ball and have it go all the way and make a hole-in-one. That's nearly impossible, right? And thus, conversion rates are 1 in 100, 1 in 200, 1 in 500, 1 in, if you're doing $5,000 offers trying to make a hole-in-one, right? Then it's going to be extremely difficult. Now, not only that, and here's a big part, is they're blindfolded. They actually don't know where the ball's going once they tee off. The phone the sales machine, we figured out all of this and how to actually see where the ball is going. We're going to get more into this, right? But the main concepts that I really, really want you to get right now is sales happens on the green, right? And the marketing happens on the drive. So here's the thing. We're going to start on the green first, because there's actually a lot of balls on the green. More balls than you might imagine, right? There's more prospects that are closer to the hole than you can possibly imagine. I see this every single day when I go in and work for a client and their agency, right? Like, nobody can be closer to the hole than a customer that's gone through the hole already, right? But even in your prospect list, there's people that are closer to the hole than you would imagine, but we never get to them because we think that the only way to sell a 5K item is to jump on the phone or do a webinar that's going to take us a long time to put together. And so we don't get to the prospects or the golf balls that are really, really close to the hole that we could do what with? We could tap them in. Tap, tap, tap. We could tap them in, okay? So part of what we always want to be aware of is how far or how close is the ball from the hole. And if we're working with an audience, like in general, how many people or how close or how far is the general group away from the hole? And we don't have to have everybody in there, right? But if we want to put 10 people in a program or 20 people in a program, right? We might want to take it like how many people are close to the hole, right? So we're going to talk about pre-selling and marketing. And by the way, I'm going to stop saying marketing and just call it pre-selling because the brain understands it easier. But the pre-sell taps from the drive to the hole are one portion of the phone, the sales machine. The part we're going to really focus on here, and there's no way I can do it justice in this amount of time, but I want to give you guys the big bones and the bones of it. But we use the T3 system, which you guys probably know. Tap, 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 right? So what we're able to do is if it's a short putt or a long putt, we can determine if it's a short putt or a long putt, right? Short putts, we take a little bit different approach than a long putt. But we want to determine if we're dealing with a short putt or a long putt, and then we use a 3-message system, right? It can be email, it can be Facebook Messenger. You can do it on using a live chat software. But for right now, let's just use, to keep it simple, let's say that our audience is an email list that we're going to use, and we're going to run a T3 on the email list. So we have three basic parts, right? We have a T1, which is the first message, a T2, which is the second message, and a T3, which is the third message, right? And this is kind of how it works. So we're zooming in, we're coming in the helicopter a little bit closer, but this is how it works. The T1 is what's called a hand raiser, and this goes out to the whole audience, typically, right? It goes out to everybody. So we would send a T1, and think of like an invite, right? We're inviting, but it's a hand raiser. And the goal of the T1 is not to get everybody. The goal of the T1 is to get the right people to raise their hand. So important. This goes back to old mail order business, right? 60% of your sales success isn't your offer or the words that you use. It was just the list that you had, the people that you get to raise their hands, right? So T1, if you imagine, it's an invite, right? It's an invite invitation or email, or even you can T1 from a Facebook group or a comment. You can T1 from a lot of different places, right? And then, so they raise their hand. Now, here's what happens after they raise their hand. The way they would do that in email is you would say, reply back to this email, right? So you'll have an email that they reply back to, or a help desk. I keep things real simple. We use Gmail. We can tag it, right? So let's say that we send out an email and we have an invite, and let's say that we get 60 people to reply back and say, yes, I would like to join you, or yes, can you send me more information on that? Then we have a T2, and T2 is our qualifier. It's a qualifying email, but it's very conversational. It's not like, go fill out this long application. And for those of you that's done strategy sessions, what we've done is we've Pareto principled out the strategy session. It's really like 90-10, right? So we get the hand raisers, which would be like people going over there, and then they go out and go over to the application, and they fill out the application, right? But we make it very conversational. So we ask a couple very important questions, right? And these are questions that help us determine if we could get them a result or not, right? So there's a couple things. One, can we get them a result? Two, I want to know what's happening in their business or their life that has them considering a change in what they're doing. Most conversions happen regardless of what we say. They happen because people are going through something. And we word this very different ways, right? We might say, what has you concerned about your retirement that has you considering doing a change in how you're doing your investments, right? Or what's happening in your life that has you considering doing some land investing, right? We want to know what their currency is. We call that the currency question. We also want to know if they're ready to do something about it now, right? So we have our hand raiser, T1 hand raiser, T2 qualifier. If they qualify, and we always make it on us, right? If they don't qualify, if usually somebody has to have like 500 opens, or at least like a 300 or 400 people in their Facebook group, for me to be valuable to them, right? So I might say, hey, I'm most useful if you have 500 opens and a $500 offer, right, on your list, right? So now we can T2, we're talking about email right now, so we would send them these replies back. We also personalize the replies, because most people just don't say, yes, I'm interested. They'll give you some information, right? Then once they reply back to that, we make a determination if we're going to give them the T3 or not, right? And then the T3 is simply the offer. It's a conversational, what I call a conversational order form. So we T1, we T2, and then we T3. Now, one of the things I want you to be clear on is we don't use bots. Now, I'm not saying that bots won't work, but we use personal interaction. And here's the lovely thing. If our hand raiser is right, we close 8% to 10% of the people that qualify and that we give a T3 to. Now, I can't promise that you'll do that starting off the bat, right? And these go across the whole range of prices from 2K and on up to 40 and 50K. So I want to be real transparent here. We have closed some 60K deals and 50K deals, but not enough of them where I would say, hey, if you have like a 60K offer, that we're going to do a whole bunch of those. I'm pretty confident at the 50K, but I just wanted to, if you want to like come in and I'm pretty sure it would work, but I just want to be real clear that our bread and butter is like between 2K and 40K, but we'll close 8% to 10% of those if we have the right hand raiser, right? If we get the wrong people reaching out, then it might be different, but the hand raiser is very, very important in who you get to raise your hand, right? So I want to give you the first time that I ever run a T3 that I didn't call it a T3 because I really want you guys to understand and grasp this. So back in 2000 and I think it was 2005 or maybe early 2006, I belonged to a forum which was a paid forum. Does anybody remember forums? Before we had Facebook groups, we had forums, right? And that's kind of where we would hang out. This one was a paid forum, and it was mostly focused on affiliate marketing and paid traffic, right? But what was interesting is inside of the forum, we had a basically what we used to call the pitch area, where you could go in and make pitches inside of the forum. It was okay to make pitches. And people would go in there and they would try to sell stuff and they would make pitches in there, right? But usually, like, once you posted something in there, what you might get is like 100 views and like nobody would comment, right? And like if you were tracking your clicks, like maybe you might get 2 or 3 clicks, right? Does this sound familiar? Like a lot of marketing's like this, right? You get to like that ghost town, right? So at that point, it was the first time I had seen a software, and I think it was one of the first of its kind. It's pretty common now, but I had discovered a software that actually tracked Google AdWords ads and put them into a database so you could see which ads were running for a long time. Old direct marketing trick, right? But they hadn't done it yet online. But I started using it, and it was amazing, right? Because I could go see and say, wow, they've been running this ad for 60 days, right? They must be doing well with it. But that was new stuff back then, right? But partly out of selfishness, I wanted to sell some of it, but I didn't want to like let the whole forum know, right? So I did a post inside of the forum. It would be a T1 now. I said, I found this amazing service that tracks all of the ads, right, on AdWords. It wasn't all of them, but we track all the ads on AdWords. I'm not going to put the link here or anything. If you'd like to know more about it, PM me, right? And this forum had a PM. And oh my gosh, like my PM box blew up, right? It was like, oh, I would like to know, right? And so I had a T2, which I didn't call a T2, but I was like, this is really only going to work for you if you're actually currently using AdWords. Are you using AdWords? And also, I don't want to let like everybody know about this, so I would like it just if you would keep it between us, please, right? And so I got a whole bunch of responses back to that. And then what I had done is a little informational like blog post explaining about the service, right? But I wouldn't let them see that page until they told me, yes, they were using AdWords, and yes, they would kind of keep it in between us, right? After they did that, then I would drop them a link to the page, right? Long story short, old way, you'd make a post, like you could tell it would get 100 views and ghost town. New way, back in 2005 and 6, dozens of PMs, dozens of engagement. Long story short, I put in about 30 people into that. And the only reason I know that is because I got a $30 commission per month, and it was a $900 I added to my income back then, which was just phenomenal. I was still working for the man back in 2005, right? So in one post, I'd added $1,000 a month to my income. Now, obviously, there's like any other continuity program, they fall off. It was actually a utility that they used, right? But that little thing changed everything for me. And this is way more than just micro commitment. You're like, oh, it's just micro commitment. It's way more. You have to get the right hand raises. You have to qualify correctly. What a lot of people want to do is they want to skip that T2. Worst thing you can do. The T2 is not only for you, it's for them, right? And then you have the T3, which is the conversational order form, right? And then after they get through the T3, what we usually say is, you don't need to send me any money now. Just let me know if you are in, right? And then we'll take it from there. So those are the three main taps. And I'm using my crib notes here because I knew I'd get really, really excited about this, and I don't want to leave anything out. But those are the three main taps that we use. So I'm going to go in just a little bit closer for you guys and give you guys a little bit more detail. Now, we use that for email, and we call it T1ing, teeing off, right? But it's really not a tee off because you're already on the green, but that's just the nomenclature that we use. You can T1 like I did on the forum. You can T1 from email. You can T1 from Facebook groups, right? And you can also use a T3, not only just for sales. What I started using it for was really small webinars, right? I would go and I would say, my T1 would be, hey, I'm putting on a little webinar about X topic, right? Would you like to join us, right? And they would say yes. I wouldn't give them a link, right? I'd say it's going to be at Thursday at 8 p.m. and we're going to be talking about this. Would you be able to make that, right? That was my qualifier. They'd be like, yep. I'm like, great. I'm going to drop you the link. Would you be kind enough to tell me if you can't make it, right? Because there's only going to be a small group of us. And so I would do webinars that way, right? So maybe I'm making this confusing, but I want you to understand like the nuances of the T3. Mostly what we use it for now is sales, but you can tee off from a Facebook. You can mix and match these. You can tee off from a Facebook group, and then you can do the T2 in Messenger if you want, right? You're asking a couple qualifying questions. And usually, let me give you some detail on the qualifying questions. The questions we want to ask, one, the way we think about it is, if somebody was holding a bucket of poop over my head and they're going to dump it over me unless I got this person a result, but I could pick 1, 2, or 3 things, qualities that they would have, what would they be? And they have to be binary. They have to be yes or no's, right? So like for, if I was doing this for agency clients, I happen to know my agency clients, they use paid ads, right? They also have an offer that's working. They may have a customer list, but they also use like Infusionsoft, right? That's like a big thing because like newbies don't use Infusionsoft. So if I say, do you use Infusionsoft or do you use like a more expensive shopping cart? That's a good sign for me, right? We also, again, we want to find out their currency question, which I already gave you. What's happening in your life or business? Now you want to ask it different, but the basic question is what's happening in your life and business that has you considering a change, right? Or has you considering doing this, right? And that's their currency question. And you want to find out, are they ready to do something about it now? Are you ready to get started now? And I might ask that in different ways, right? But this is really parading down the strategy session. If you get the right who, you have the bucket of poop questions, your offer must be clear and specific, right? As we spend so much time on in the $1 Million Offer group, right? You have to be able to point to it. You can't say, I give coaches clarity, right? Or you can't say, like, I help you find true love. That's way too broad. The biggest challenge I see when people try to run their T3s is their offer is too broad. So let me give you an example. Or a metaphorical example. If you're a Phillips screwdriver, like, your job is to turn screws, right? If your qualifying question is, what does your screw look like? Does it look like a minus or plus sign? And you're a Phillips, right? They're going to say Phillips, or it looks like a plus sign. Then you're going to let them go. But it's going to be an easy offer if you're specific, right? Now, if you're trying to sell a toolbox that does all kinds of things, you're going to have a real hard time, right? If you say, hey, if you're trying to build anything or repair anything, boy, do I have the toolbox for you, right? That's going to be really, really hard offer, right, to tap in, okay? So this thing works amazingly, so shockingly, surprisingly well, because if they're already on the green, if they're close to the hole, like, all you have to do is tap them in. As a matter of fact, what happens if a ball is like 1 inch from the hole and you pull out a driver and you swing at it really, really hard? Like, what's going to happen? I'll let you guys answer that while I get a little drink of water. I love the delay. That delay really hurts my self-esteem, yeah. Like, the worst thing that can happen is somebody's close to the hole and then you hit the ball too hard. Now, we see this happen with clients. Like, yeah, choice is the ball goes bye-bye. It goes right over the hole, right? So we've had clients where we're running a T3, and then when we send them to the shopping cart, the client's out, I'm going to put all these testimonials, I'm going to put all this other sales material on there, and we're like, no. Like, all you want is like, here's how much you pay, right? Because we've already tapped them. Like, the last thing you want to do is bring them in further, right? So everybody understand, T1, hand raiser, T2 is the qualifier, T3 is the offer, right? Now, here's the cool thing. Once you've got the T2 and the T3 performing, that's like, I call it Big Daddy's conversion funnel. It's so simple, right? Because what we do is we have our tapper go into Gmail, and we have all of the canned responses for the T2 and the T3. And it becomes like a funnel, right? If they say this, give them this canned response. If they say this, give this canned response, right? And it's dirt simple, right? But once you write the T2 and once you write the T3, it becomes like your funnel, right? But it's highly intimate and it's highly personalized. There are some follow-up taps, and I'm not going to go deep into those, and some payment taps, right? But those are all can be canned responses in Gmail, and you can close deals in the amount of time it used to take me to schedule a strategy session, right? Oh, can you get on my calendar? And we go back and forth. I know you can automate that, right? But I can close a deal now in that amount of time, right? So there are some follow-up taps and stuff, but want to really point out to you guys that tapping the T3 is a putter, right? So you don't want to like buy cold traffic necessarily and then run a T3 to them. For that, you want to use pre-sell taps. For the drive, right, you want to do pre-cell taps. Now, here's the thing. Here's why you guys can end up kicking everybody's butt. Most people, most business owners and marketers think that they've got to make that whole. They've got to they've got to make it in like 2 or 3 shots, right? You don't have to do that, right? We get paid the same amount of money if we take 5 shots to get the $40,000 hole in there as if we take 10 shots, right? There are some rules, right? Like you can't pick up the ball, right? There's some things that you can't do, right? But we get paid the same amount. Just knowing that you can tap, tap, tap it a few times and knowing when it's on the green and when to move over to a T3 changes everything, right? And so one of the things I really, really want to point out here is what people think drives the ball from the tee to the green is reputation. They think credibility is what drives it. They think just throwing a bunch of content at people is what drives the ball. They think that the webinar is what's going to drive the ball. If I just give them super awesome information on the webinar, it's going to drive the ball, and it may or may not. But here's the biggest thing. This is a writer downer, I think, in my mind. What drives the ball faster down the fairway than anything else is one word: insight. Now, I call it a braingasm. We have this like aha moment when people see their problem a little bit differently. When you put some light on their problem and they see it a little bit differently, they go, aha. And that's what moves them a little bit closer. I'm trying to make it happen for you guys today, right? I'm trying not, because you will never remember all the how-tos. How many how-tos do you guys remember? Like with the 7 how-tos to running Facebook ads. Like, does anybody remember the how-tos? We forget the how-tos, but we remember insights that people gave us, and we remember who gave us those insights, right? So let's go back to our lowly screwdriver again, right? If we're talking with somebody, let's say we're face-to-face or talking on the phone, right? If we're talking with somebody and say, so, hey, yeah, I help people turn screws. Like, what kind of screw do you have, right? And they're like, well, I don't know. I can't see it. Well, where is it at? Well, it's over here in this dark corner. Okay, well, let's go get a flashlight. And that flashlight is the insight, right? And they go shine it. Let's shine it on the screw. Do you see it now? Yeah, oh, yeah, I see it. Yes. Does it look like a plus sign or does it look like a minus sign? Well, it looks like a plus sign. Okay, now help me get an idea of how big the screw size is. Could you fit like 1 ant into a slot or 2 ants into a slot? Oh, I think you could fit, 2 ants into the slot. Aha! So come back over here. Let me show you what I've got. And if I show them this now, all of a sudden they're like, that's it. That's what I need, right? That's what I need to turn this screw, right? It's not, yes, you want people to know, like, and trust you. That definitely helps. But I have another saying that is that people buy from people that they know, like, and trust until somebody comes along and helps them solve a problem that they haven't been able to solve before, right? And that is the biggest way to move people, the insights. And I do this all the time, or I attempt to do it all the time, on my personal Facebook profile, in my group, in my email, everywhere. I'm trying to get people to look at their problems just a little bit differently, because that's why we're stuck, right? If we could see our problem from a different viewpoint, we would know what to do, right? And that's like the biggest thing that we can do for people is shine the light just a little bit ahead or on their problem a little bit different way, where they get the, what I call the brain gas, and like, da-da, I see it now, right? And then they will forever attribute that little braingasm to you and the joy, but it moves the golf ball closer to the hole, right? And you don't need tons and tons of time to make it happen. Once people sense that you know their problems better than they do, and that you understand their situation, And they have some internal things that happen, like, oh my gosh, this is what I need, right? This is what I need. Like I can get off the phone more. I can sell $25,000 things to my customer list, right? That I have sitting there. And I see this all the time, right? People have big fat customer lists, but they don't do anything with them. Not because they know the money's in their customer list, but because they don't want to have to go through the whole rigmarole of hiring salespeople, or they don't want to be on the phone all the time, or they don't want to take 3 months, or maybe people can put it faster together than me, but they don't want to take 3 months to put a webinar together. And then once that webinar wears out, then what, right? So this is why a lot I see. And I want to be careful I don't be hypey with the numbers, or that you don't think that I'm hypey with the numbers. But this is why I see, $250,000, $500,000 locked up in people's lists that we pull out like in one campaign, right, with the agency, right? Just because like they think, and it's a false assumption, what Eli Goldratt would call a false assumption that keeps them stuck. They think that the only way to sell to people is through the phone, right? Or by webinar. And that's not the case. The challenge is getting the ball so close to the hole that a monkey could tap it in, right? That's the challenge. Getting it close to the hole. The real problem is, how do we get it closer to the hole, right? And how do we do it in an efficient manner? So what my recommendation would be for you is to start with the people that are already close to the hole. If you have customer database, if you have a warm list, if you have a warm Facebook group, tee off a T3. It's awesome, right? But you will hit a point where you run out of balls that are kind of close to the hole, right? So you want to have the rest of the phoneless sales machine in place to where you can keep those balls tapping closer and closer. The beautiful part is that you can run 50K, 100K a month businesses without like thousands of visitors. The reason people are spending so much on visitors and everything is because they've got to like put so many people in, so somebody's like close enough to the hole that they're going to get tapped in, right? I almost feel sorry for some of these poor sales guys, because what's happening is the business owner saying, hey, I'm going to give you all these 100-yard putts, right? I'm going to give you a putter when it probably should be an iron or a sand wedge, right? But I'm going to give you a putter. It's going to be a 100-yard putt, and damn it, you better make it. You better make at least 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 3 on the first shot every time, right? Or you're fired, right? So I almost feel sorry for those guys, because like Peter Drucker would say, use your marketing and you can leverage your marketing, right? Once you've got the T2 and the T3, those are your putters. But like once you start getting what their objections are, what their real currency is, then you can put those into your insights, right? And then you drive the ball closer and closer to the hole. So, boy, I'm going through a lot of water. Let me pause for a second. Let me look at my cheat notes. Let me look at my crib notes here. So I've already talked to you guys about the phoneless sales machine. The phoneless sales machine is made up of not only becoming really proficient. It's really, the T3 is so simple. It doesn't take long to teach it. Now, some of the nuances take a little while, right? So I was just having this discussion with my project manager today. Like, I don't want you to buy information from me. It's like, if you're going to buy a book on how to ride a bike, like, it's not the book that you want, right? We were working on a client who has a recurring annual membership, and people were like, well, I want the product unlimited access forever, right? Well, the thing is, like, they don't really want the information, they want the transformation, right? So my goal with you is to help you understand the tapping process so it can become something that you use, right? And it's really, there's a little bit of balance, but once you get it, like training our tappers fairly quickly, right? Once you have like the canned responses and they understand it, like you put a tapper in for 20 bucks an hour, pay him $50 a bonus for sale or $100 bonus for sale, right? And they can tap in sales. And what's beautiful about it is like they can handle the volume of 4 or 5 salespeople, right? Whether they're tapping them in by email or tapping in by live chat, because you can handle 4 or 5 chats. You can handle a lot of responses in email, right? And you tap those babies in. So I want to finish out the offer for you guys. If you would like to become a full-fledged tapper and learn the whole phoneless sales machine, not learn it, right? I keep saying learning, but if you guys want to start applying that to your business so you can tap in 2K, 10K, 20K sales, like I've got a client right now that we're going to be tapping in $20,000 mastermind sales for them, right? So you can do that, and it's beautiful, right? So, but I want you guys to use this because really this right here is the bottleneck in a lot of businesses, or that webinar, right? That we have to drive like so much traffic to like, if you're driving traffic to a webinar registration page, and it feels like I'm really beating up on webinars. There's really a time and a place for them, but I think people use them in the wrong spot. But if you're using them as a cold traffic conversion, if you buy 1,000 visitors, like what's your registration rate, right? Like you're doing really, really awesome if you get 30 or 40% they'll register for the webinar, right? And then how many people actually show up to the webinar, right? 25% or so. Then how many people buy? Maybe 10 or 15%. Now, here's another use for the tapper. Again, you can tap from everywhere. You can tap your people that attended but that didn't buy. You can tap your registrations. We double and triple sometimes what people are doing in a webinar using the tapper afterward. You can tap during the webinar, right? They got questions, have a tapper sitting there. They're ready to answer the questions. But let me give you the details on the offer here. August 6th, 7th, and 8th, which is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3 p.m. Central over Zoom. And you can tell I'm cheating here. 3 p.m. Central, I'm going to be taking 12 good folks and showing them how to apply the tapper and the phoneless sales machine so that they can tap in big ticket sales without using the phone, without having to do webinars. And again, it just streamlines things so much. Like it's so simple to reply back to a couple emails and make 5,000 or 10,000 in sales in a day. And you can run these every day. I've got an everyday strategy. I've got a promo strategy to where you can have sales coming in. We call them nurture and pick taps. But you can have sales coming in all the time. So we're going to go deep over those days into the T3 system. Again, some of this I'm going to give you the theory, and you're going to get the templates and everything. But the way you're going to learn to ride the bike is when you apply it, and then you start getting responses back, and we work on those together, right? So we're also going to have follow-up whenever you guys need them, what I call offer hours. So after the 3 main trainings, like you guys are going to start launching these, right? And you're going to start getting replies back, and you're going to start getting people with responses that you may not know exactly how to handle. I'm going to show you how to handle all of those. You're going to get the pre-sell taps, and along with that, I'm also going to give you a bonus. I'm comping in my big ticket email mojo, which I've lost track. I've sold a ton of them at $6,000 to $8,000 a piece for. People fly out to my house. I teach them basically the basics on that. That's a lot of what you need from the pre-sell side to go from the drive to the all the way, actually all the way to the hole there, but we just use an order form there, right? And you're gonna get my Rainmaker there if you want to do a big multi-sale launch with 2K, 5K, 10K things. We can do it on that, but you're gonna get comped in big ticket email mojo. Going to talk a lot about hiring tappers, right? There's a certain thing you want to look for when you hire your tappers. That's going to save you a ton of time and a ton of money rather than putting salespeople in place, right? Salespeople work typically 15-20% commission. So if you're selling something that's 10K, you may be paying them a K or 2K, which is, again, that could be a value, right? But then you have to manage them. Then you have to worry about what they're saying. Or you got to pay somebody to manage them, right? I come from a Navy background where I worked on electronic gear and machinery, right? And the less moving parts that you have, the less problems you're going to have. And the same thing in business. Why a lot of my life is pretty smooth right now. Social T3. The Social T3 kicks ass. I get excited about it. You can, again, we can mix and match these, and we'll talk about that. You can tee off in a Facebook group. Then you can qualify a little bit in a private message if you want, and then drop them the details inside of a notepad file, or somebody was talking about you can send them to a video. I don't do a lot with the videos. I find it works just as well to send them the details in an ugly old notepad file that we attach. I almost don't want to tell you my conversion rate because I don't think you would believe it, but we get 40 and 50% conversion rates from our social T3s. If we get the right people to raise their hands and qualify, 40 and 50% conversion rates on $7,000 items. It's just sick, but we're going to go over that. I'm also going to give you, this one won't be in the 3 days. I'm going to do a separate training. You turn your audience into passive income. The second helping campaign. Good Lord. If this is all you had, the second helping campaign, you're going to make your investment back many, many times over. And this is all you did, right? I'll give you the background that's really, really quick. Had a client, we ran what we call the Rainmaker, which you're going to get in the big ticket email mojo. We did over 100 sales, over 130 sales at 2K a piece. So we had 130 people who had just purchased, and so we ran a T3 to those 130 people. We sent one T1. That's all we sent. And you can send multiple T1s, right? We sent one T1. We did $120,000 in sales, and we didn't send another T1 because the client was book. He's that's all I can handle right now. So if any of this stuff, if you're doing webinars and people are buying and you have a secondary offer, just tap them in with this second helping campaign. It is sick. And we're going to go talk about that and the ins and outs in that. Licensing. This one is huge. So I'm going to give you the templates and the examples. You're going to get dozens of them. Just one of these templates is brought in over $500,000 that you're going to get. I'm going to give you the licensing rights to use them for yourself. If you have a lot of clients, we might need to discuss that, but just open for right now. We're going to give you the licensing rights to do that on your own. So you don't have to start out from scratch. I want to make this as simple as possible. There will be tweaking, right? But I've got T1s for VIP days, T1s for live events, T1s for masterminds, got T1s for even I think I've got T1s for physical product packages, right? So those kind of things. And then we have tons of examples in the big ticket email mojo. Again, just the licensing alone is, and I really thought twice before I just give this away to people, right? Because what I don't want, and part of the reason I keep this limited, because I don't want everybody to get this, right? If you want to sell by phone, we we have some clients, and I've run them for myself, that actually just want to get, they already have phone people. So here's another problem with phone people. You got to keep them loaded down with apps, right? But we've run campaigns where they actually told us we had to stop because we've blacked out their calendars. Their salespeople are completely busy. But if you want to run the phone, I can show you how to run so many apps that it'll probably overload your salespeople. But here's the better part about that. is going to be so much closer to the hole, your conversion rate goes way, way up. You got to get people closer to the hole, right? My salespeople, like we would run apps sometimes, and they would close 60, 70, and 80% of them, and they thought they were geniuses, right? But the problem was they were already close to the hole, right? So if you want to get people on the phone, when you do take phone calls, I do phone calls too, but most of the time the question is, hey, let me tell you about my situation. You think that's going to work for me? Yep, it's going to work for you. Awesome, let's do it, right? I call them like 6-minute strategy sessions, right? They're close to the hole already. If you want to use the phone, perfect. We're also going to talk about outsourcing your email writing with the templates and everything. It makes it a lot easier. But we write in a 6th grade level. Matter of fact, usually the biggest problem that I have with folks is they write too smart. They're too smart. And we have to dumb it down, right? That's more like a 6th grader. But the beautiful part about that is it makes it McDonaldized to hire email writers, or if you want them to write your T1s, your T2s, your T3s, you can have them do that. And the last thing, as far as a bonus I have for you, we just started running snail taps, right? We talked about what those are, snail taps, to people's direct mail list. Now, we don't do it to prospect list, we do it to customer list. So we drop a T1, and guess what? They reply back to an email, and then we give them the qualifier, and then we give them the offer. It is working phenomenally well. We're about 90, I haven't checked today, but we're about 90K in sales from a $1,950 postage and mailing cost all out there. So doing some sick stuff there. So let's talk about the investment. Then I'm going to tell you about the guarantee and how you guys can jump in if you guys want to do that. The investment, if you want to wait till the official enrollment, it'll still be an amazing value. But if you want to wait, stew on it, wait till next week. It's going to be 10K, starting at 10K. I may not have any spots. I've already sold out almost half of these 12 spots that I have right now before this call. But what I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to do this. We're going to start, you can get started with a 5K deposit. And then after you've banked $50,000, I don't mean 50,000 in sales, after you've sold and either put in PayPal or put in Stripe and it's hit your bank account, then just write me another check for 6K. So 5K deposit and then 6K once you've banked 50K. I call that my pay as you profit program. And so that is the skinny on the investment. Now I'm an old-fashioned dude most of the time. I believe in earning my keep, and part of the reason why I want to keep these classes small is I want to know your offers. I want to know you. I want to see the whites of your eyes, and I want to see the lights coming on, and I want to make sure that you get a result. So the way my guarantee works is I will work with you as long as you are working to get you at least a $10,000 banked inside of your PayPal or your bank account. So I want to be really, really clear on this. This doesn't mean like 7 years later, like you don't go through any of the classes and you don't do anything, and then say, hey, like help me with my T3, right? But I will continue to work with you and we'll have classes as long as it takes. I don't care if it takes 6 months. It won't take that long, right? We're going to have 3 main classes. You guys will launch your T3s. Then we'll get together on offer calls and Q&A calls on Zoom, and we'll dial them in and tweak them in, right? I'm going to do whatever it takes. If we have to have Q&A calls back to back, that's fine. But I'm going to keep on doing those until everybody's getting their result. And I will continue to work with you until you've got the 10K in profit at least, right? Now, my real goal is to get you, and I'm not saying this to for some ploy, right? I want you to hit 50K because damn it, I want my 6K, man. And I did this with the last class too. We had a really great completion rate on that. That is the offer. So let me just recap it for you. Well, let me tell you how you can take advantage of this first. So if you know you want in, just send me a PM and say I'm in, and then I'll take it from there. If you're already there, you don't need to you don't have a lot of questions or any questions at all. You don't need to see all the details in person. I haven't looked here in a second, but I've got 7 remaining spots open of the 12. So if you know you want in, just send me a PM that says I'm in. If you have a question, or maybe you just like to see things in writing, I have a very ugly, butt-ass ugly notepad file that I can send you with all of the details. I don't think you're going to find too many surprises over what I told you right here, but just email me. You guys see where I'm going with this? Just email me at bigmojovip@gmail.com. Now, before you email me help you. Let me know how close to the hole you are. And here's the way you can do that. If you're way back at the tee and you pretty darn sure this isn't for you, but you just want to double check, tell me you're a 1, right? If you're way far away. If you're really close, like you're this close to the hole, but you just want to make sure it's going to work for your industry or what have you. But if you're really close to the hole, put a 10 there, right? Or anywhere that you feel comfortable in between. For full transparency, I like to say full frontal transparency because I have a junior high sense of humor. But for full transparency, the way that I'm going to answer these is I will enroll the people that PM me, I'm in, first, and on a first come, first serve basis. Then I will roll back into the email and I'll start with the 10s and roll my way back to that. Obviously, I would love to have everybody, but I wish that I knew how to work with more people. I'm actually having Casey, my project manager, who's going to give us a hand on looking at email copy, because next to me, he's probably knows more about the T3 process than anybody else. But this is pretty much going to be 90% me. We will have a Facebook group where you can post stuff too, but that, my friends, is how you can take advantage of this. I feel like I've made this a little bit confusing, so let me recap real quick. On August 6th, 7th, and 8th at 3 p.m. over Zoom at 3 p.m. Central, we're all going to get together on Zoom. You might want to schedule in about 2 hours for each of those, but I don't want to spread this out over 8 weeks. Come in, let's do it. Let's get to that 50K ASAP, right? My students make it back really fast, right? So we're going to do that. Then we're going to have group offer hours and Q&As where we can work on your stuff. We can look at your T1s, your T2s, T3s, tweak in your offers. You'll also get you'll get the big ticket email mojo. So as soon as you sign up, I'll have Annette get you access to that. That's a 6K value. We're going to be talking about hiring your own tappers. You're going to get social T3. We're going to turn your audience, whether it's a Facebook group or an email list, into passive income for you. You're going to get the second helping campaign. I almost want to call it the magic second helping campaign because it works so well. And if that's all you guys did, I think you guys would get a fantastic return on that. If you guys have a 10K offer and any kind of customer list, it's just going to be almost dumb not to get that second helping campaign. Going to give you licensing rights so you can use the templates and the emails for yourself. If you want to sell by phone, we're going to be talking about that and helping you with that, how to outsource your email writing. And then I'm going to give you a bonus training on snail taps. I'll even hook you up with my direct mail person that we're using. So the investment's $5K now, 5K deposit. After you bank 50K, then you just send me over a PayPal for 6K. And the guarantee is I'm going to work with you until you've at least got a $10,000 return, as long as you are committed and working with me too, right? So you can't ghost on me. That's just not gonna work, okay? But that is the guarantee, old-fashioned guy guarantee. So I believe that's everything there. Let me tell you, I had a couple questions come in, like how many people do I need to have on my list, right? So here's the general thing that I like. It depends if you have a customer list or a prospect list. Obviously, customer list, you can have a lot fewer. But I like to see around 200 to 500 opens if you've got like $1,000 offer or more, right? And that's not like that you can't have any success with this, but I want people to see fast success, right? So I very often say the biggest secret to building a big list is knowing how to monetize a small one. And I've had people come in with 700-person lists that get a few hundred opens and leave and do 50K in a month after they've left, right? Using various combinations of what we do. So the Facebook groups depends on how engaged they are, but we've done 6 figures from little 400-person Facebook groups. But to get your return back and what you're going to get out of this, like you don't need a very big audience, right? The big thing is they can't hate you. Like if you have some list that you haven't mailed in 5 years, that's probably not going to be good, right? If you're going to try to revive some Facebook group that you haven't done anything with in 2 years, that's probably not going to work, right? But if you can get if we can get, a couple dozen people raising their hands, even from a small audience, and again, we can send more than one T1, right? But we can get a couple dozen people raising their hands, like we close 8% to 10% of the people that qualify, right? So depending, if you have a 2K offer, right, you get 20 people to raise their hands, right? We qualify 12 of them. There's a sale right there, right? Does that make sense? So it doesn't have to be a humongous list, but let me get a drink of water here. If you know you want in, just go ahead and PM me. I'm in. I'll handle it from there. We'll get you locked and loaded. If you have some questions, send me an email to, hang on, my mind just went blank. Isn't that great? BigMojoVIP@gmail.com. So I've got a bad case of cotton mouth right now. Let me take a drink of water and let's take some questions. Let me see here. Let me roll to the questions that you guys had in the group. I want to make sure I answer those questions for you. Hang on, I know this is about as exciting as watching the paint dry here. But it's important to me. All right, here we go. So we don't have tons of questions. So let me go run through these questions I asked earlier. Make sure we got those. Tim, where's the training? We hopefully he found it. Chris, how big someone's email list, social media following, whatever it needs to be, really to use this system properly. I think I answered that pretty good on that. But I would like to see at least a couple hundred opens, a couple hundred people in a Facebook group that are engaging. And again, once you guys figure out this T3, and it's like, oh my God, I just made a $5,000 sale, off of what I already have, then it's really simple to go out and build a bigger audience if you want to, right? Ed Haskins, particularly with Messenger, do you pre-qualify the prospect before making an offer? Or do you make the offer, and if they have interest, then you qualify? So hopefully this answered it. But yes, we qualify with the T2, right? We qualify with the T2. We also read in between the lines what they're saying. We do zero convincing. We don't try to convince anybody of anything. The way that we handle our follow-ups is really unique, and it's nuanced, so I can't go into great detail here, but we don't judge anybody, right? Like, we're like, hey, here's what our screwdriver looks like. What does your screw look like? Oh, well, that's not going to be a good fit. Or, so it's very, very cut and dry. And it's so enjoyable, too, because we're not trying to convince anybody. What are your thoughts on using a short video to present your offer? I don't do it. I have done something similar to that in the past, a long time ago. But again, like, you could use whatever you want for your offer. What you want to be aware of is that your T3 doesn't drive the ball too hard, right? Because the worst thing you can do is they're right at the hole and you smack the ball too hard. So I would recommend follow my program first. Once you know what to say in your T3 and you know it converts, then play with it. Take your T3 and turn it into a video if you want to, or even a webinar, right? If you want to do a short webinar that you can, or a replay, right? Troy, let's see, how to determine ahead of time if a tap is a tap that you should do. So all of our taps are pretty much predetermined. The only one we play with is the T1, right? Because it's the invite tap. But the T2 and the T3 kind of remain the same. And we can split test different T2 and T3. We don't do a ton of split testing because, like, we're getting 8% and 10% conversion. We just know if it's working or not working. But you can modify the follow-ups, and you could probably do a better job than we do split testing it. But the T1 is really like, it's a hand raiser, and you're going to know if you're off on the hand raiser if you're getting the right people or not, right? So if we want people that are, like, say we're selling a more advanced Facebook course, and we don't want newbies, right? And we put out a T1 and all we get are newbies, right? We need to modify our T1 because we're getting the wrong people raising their hands, right? I've got a client, great fella, named Grayson, who works with dietitians, right? Now, the problem with working with dietitians is a little bit like working with coaches. So many people that call themselves a coach or a dietitian really are just dietitians or coaches in name only. They don't do a lot of client stuff, right? So if you want somebody that does client stuff, you have to understand what their problems are. So, like, for some people, like for theirs, they might say they're more advanced if they have a brick and mortar building, or if they have a couple dietitians hired and working underneath them, right? So those would be things that we want them to raise their hand so we can exclude the other hand raisers. So pretty much if we know we have the right person and we qualify them, we're going to have great success with the T3 offer, as long as the offer is solving a specific problem for a specific person. The T3 is typically not a challenge. So, Tina Marie. I love seeing Tina Marie's bright wit and wisdom. What are the page recommendations that attach the messenger bot? Like, what kind of content, how much content? So just to be clear, we don't use bots. Harlan Kilstein likes to use bots, and I probably am going to start using some bots and seeing how it works, but I don't want to promise anything that I don't have, or that I'm not doing myself, right? So we don't use bots, but one of the things we do use is we use a live chat form on all of our order forms, whether we're doing T3s or not. You can also have a live chat form on your webinars, right? On the webinar order form, like Mike Long said, that's like one of the biggest game changers he's had, and he uses our chat mojo and our system for dialing in the offer with that. And for that, we use, it used to be Zopum, it's Zendesk Chat now. So you can plop on Zendesk Chat. There are ways to plop on some messenger stuff from Facebook onto your page. I haven't figured that out. And I'm not saying Zopum is the best or Zendesk Chat is the best. It's the one that I could figure out and my team could figure out. And so but it works. It works pretty good. So that is all the questions that we had on here. Do we have any questions now in the audience? How are we doing on time? Oh, we've been here for, time flies when you're actually doing these. Let me take a look and see if we have any questions on the actual live itself. Steve, what are the requirements? 500 opens. Yeah, I mean, that's not the requirements to get a result, to get to get it in 1 or 2 emails and make it back. Absolutely. So that's kind of something that we typically look at. 500 opens, 200 to 500 opens, depends on what size your offer is. I'm just looking through these. I know it's any of the questions here, so make sure we got them. If I'm missing any, I'll answer them offline going through here. Awesome. Cool. When's the next group of 12? Anders, I think some people think I'm making this up sometimes, but I make most of my money doing this stuff. I teach when I feel like it. I have people come over to the house or come over to Little Rock. I put on the classes when I feel like it. So I just wanted to open this up for 12 people that I wanted to share this with and work closely with and kind of help them get impact. So I'm not sure when I'm going to do the next one. I usually get in the teaching mood about once a quarter or so. But a lot of times I'll have people come out. I'd rather have somebody come out to the house. Again, I'm a very intimate person. I like to see the lights come on, right? So more often than not, I'll have people fly out here to me, and that's a great way to do it as well. But I just don't know. Awesome, guys. Well, it looks like I don't have any other questions. If you guys already know you want to come in, be a tapper with us, I've got a few spots. I don't know how quick they'll go or not, but we've got over or half filled up right now. So I'd love to have you. If you want to just come in, if you know that you want in, just drop me a message that says I'm in. If we're not already friends, I'll look in my go ahead and give me a friend request, and I'll also look in my other folder. If you have questions on it, though, that's perfectly fine too. Drop me an email, bigmojovip@gmail.com, and help me help you. Like, where are you at? Like, how close to the hole are you? 1, if you're like way, way away. A 10, if you just have a question or two. And I might just reach out by messenger. Might be more efficient that way, but I'll make sure I get you the written details. And I think that's about it, guys. I want to thank you so much for just spending this time with me. I'm always humbled, and because you guys know how bumbly I am, I'm always humbled when you guys will come. I hope you've gotten a lot out of this. I had a great time doing it. And I want to say congratulations to all the new tappers that we've already got. I'm going to roll up my sleeves and work darn hard to make sure that we get to that 50K as quickly as possible. Catch y'all later. See you in the group.